we have a speaker with 20+ years of experience in the enterprise computing and data management, and his name is Cornel Popescu. He's systems engineer for Veeam software. I think the final details are you ready?
Yes.
Great. So let's welcome Cornel. Let's give him some applauses. Thank you.
And good afternoon. So between lunch and now, it's me. So I'm here. I think it's the right time to talk about backups, right? I think we just discussed this. I was waiting for that question. If nobody would ask it, I would ask it. So what about backups? And why do you do backups? Anybody? To recover, right? I would take it one step further and I say that any service delivered by IT to an organization, if that service is not needed, the company will say, okay, just shut it down, right? Why do we use it? Why do we need it? It doesn't bring us any value, just providing costs? No, shut it down. Typically, you do something with that service, right? You provide users with data, you provide organization a way to perform its operations, right? And without that data, you basically do not provide a service. And that's the main key here. Whatever, I'm an engineer, as my introduction was 20 years of experience. Yes, I was working as a field engineer. And every time I got a request from company and saying, okay, we had a great idea. We'll increase sales by 10 times if we do this service, if we automate this, if we provide this kind of service to our customers or to our sales force. And then the next question would be, what do we do if that service doesn't run, right? So we need to protect it. Now, today's topic, for me, it's winning the war against ransomware. What's that connection with ransomware and backups? It's kind of obvious, but I will just state it here because it's really, really critical. And that statement is, ransomware is the biggest threat to data today. If we look back in time, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, do you know what was the main reason of downtime of a service shutting down, not delivering that service to the customers? Anybody? Do you know what happened to data 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Come on. Network issue, yeah. Many of these failures, I mean, anything can happen to data. Network issues, you cannot reach it. Other things. Hardware issue, yeah. A computer fails, right? If something goes wrong with that. A power outage. It can be a lot of things that a storage device, a server, will not work. The main thing that was leading to downtime 10, 15 years ago was a human error. Somebody was deleting the data by mistake, or applying a patch and making that data unusable, right? And today, coming back to ransomware, you have to realize this, that the main thing that leads to downtime is a cyber attack. Somebody getting in, taking the data hostage, because this is the term ransomware comes from a way of asking for money if you take the data as hostage. Now, just think about this. Really important, in my opinion. If somebody gets in, takes your data, and asks for ransom, if that would be 10 years, 15 years ago, will that attacker would be that successful as today? I would say probably yes, but they will not ask for money in US dollars because you watch the movies, right? What do you do to find who is the bad guy? You follow the money and you get to that guy. Okay, this account got the money, right? So who is the owner of that account? That guy. Okay, we'll get him. Today, we have, I think everybody knows, cryptocurrency, right? So, and that's a bit changing the way the things are because these attackers ask for cryptocurrency, and that's untraceable. So you don't know, you know a wallet, but who is the owner of that wallet? We don't know. So it's an easy way to make money. And because they make money, the number of attacks, as we see it, is exponentially growing. We are talking here about a pandemic, cyber pandemic, if you want. Now think like we just went through a pandemic where humans were infected. Now we see these attacks and viruses and malware and all kinds of bad software coming from the jungle, which is the internet, and nobody can do anything. There are some things that helps us protect us, like in terms of security, you know, blocking the network and doing this and doing that. But do you know what is your option as a last line of defense? If something actually got in, encrypted your data, and asking for money to get it back. Do you know? It's a backup, exactly. So this is why you need to know what backup can do and actually to protect yourself and to be there as a last line of defense when you need it. And actually, my topic here is ransomware, but you can need that data in several other scenarios. Human errors, hardware failures, a lot of things. And I also say, because I heard here some, when you do a replication, or you synchronize this data, you put it on object storage, like S3, or you put it there, and that storage is like redundant. That means, you know, it takes data and move it to other data center in the other part of the world. So that's fine, it's redundancy, right? But is it enough? I would say no, against ransomware is not enough. I say if you put garbage in, if you encrypt the data here, data will be synchronized and replicated to the other part of the other data center in the other part of the world. So it's still unusable. If you put garbage in, you get garbage out. Simple as that. Now, I think I already started by saying about ransomware. I just want to mention a few things about the company that I am representing. It's Veeam. Do you heard about Veeam? Some of you. Some of you have colleagues working with Veeam. Now, we are a global company, but I'm really proud to say that Veeam has a big investment in Romania. We are more than 5,000 people in the world as Veeam employees. More than 1,000 are hired here in Bucharest. So it's a big investment from us. We are also proud to say, I'm here with some colleagues. Christina Stoyan is public cloud, she's there. Irina Enășoaie, I hope I say it right, is also here. She's also with the public cloud. They're responsible for entire EMEA, right? So there are Romanian guys working for EMEA. There is also Denisa, which is with me, part of the Romanian team, let's say like this. So, ransomware, and I want to talk today about lesson learned. I will not be as technical, but doesn't mean I'm a system engineer, so I can be technical. But what I prepared today is I want to understand the importance of doing backups and what we can do about it. Simple, because it's a simple thing that you can do today in order to react better tomorrow. Because without preparation, in the face of the biggest threat that is there, we will not be able to recover. We will lose data, we will lose services, we will lose money, right? So, and what I think also really important to understand, the guys that are there and they are using this ransomware, they are creating the tools, they are exploiting vulnerabilities, they are going into an organization and take the data hostage. What was really, and this is quite new, it's on Twitter, it's a tweet from September 13. It's a group of hackers that they say like this. What they did to attack a company like MGM Resorts, which is valued at almost $34 billion, was a 10-minute call to help desk and saying, I'm this guy. They searched LinkedIn, they found an employee, maybe a manager, and they called this help desk and say, they stole my laptop, they stole my phone, everything. Can you help me get it back? And they helped him. And then he was in. And then they got attacked. They got the data encrypted and 24 hours to pay the ransom. If you don't pay the ransom, they will delete the data. So imagine also this moment, which is not pleasant by any means, that you are working with a company and that company is kind of shut down because nothing works, right? And this is also another key for a successful ransomware attack. We don't have time, but I will try to be brief. They will not encrypt just a laptop and threaten, I will delete the data on that laptop or server because you will not pay. You will say, okay, do it. I don't care about that. But they will try to access or figure out where the critical data is, where the database is. They will not care in Kubernetes, they will not care about your pods. They can work fine, but without the data that most likely resides on Minio, right? Or S3 or object storage, without that, your pods will not work. So they will encrypt that data. They will access it, they will figure it out. They are smart, and we know that. They will also attack our servers, the one that protects your environment. If they leave you with the option to recover, you will not pay. And what they want you to do? To put your hand in your pocket and take the big bucks out, right? So just understand that big risk. And nobody, if you think also like, what happens if I get attacked? Can I report this to Romanian police? Hey, can you please come really fast because I'm attacked, my computers are not working? No. Is there any organization that you can address this issue to? No, you're alone. Only with your providers, with your tools that you have in place. And of course, there are some issues. And here, this is a graph. I know that you cannot read it, but I will try to explain. So with blue, this is the most recent year, and with other colors are previous years. And the first one here is cybersecurity event that leads to outage, to downtime, right? So we know this. As I said, 10 years ago, we had like something else there, but today it's cybersecurity event. And the ransomware frequency. So again, this is, you will receive the presentation, you also have the links. We have a report done for us by an external organization that tells us that companies, 85% of the companies had at least one attack in last year. So there is only 15% of the companies that say, no, we didn't receive anything. Like, nothing happened to us. 85% say, now, you can be attacked but not know about it. That's a different thing. But the reality is that the question is not if you are going to be attacked, but how many times. This is what we understand from what we see. There is also, from the perspective of how big the organization can be, we see no difference between the big ones and the small ones. Of course, the big ones have more money, and they can pay theoretically a higher fee, but this is not a guarantee. If you are a small company that somebody will not ask you for 100 Bitcoins. There is absolutely no guarantee. And if that happens and you cannot recover, you are out of business. There are also like companies that have insurance. And we know this, that with the attack and recovery, every attack surface is equally vulnerable. So where are you hit? If you run, now, here is the data center if you have your own on-premise. On the right side is the cloud infrastructure that you are using. So, or you have remote offices. We see the same thing, like the same distribution. With the dark, with the red is the most data is encrypted, like 13%, 14%, 15%. That's equally like equal between where are you, your service is running. So it's not that if you run in the cloud, you are less secure or more secure than on-premise. That's actually, from security point of view, a cloud, you can make it hardened and secure. But the thing is, as an employee, you have access to all these resources because your network engineers allow access to on-prem and cloud resources in the same way. And if somebody attacks your account, and as I said with the MGM resorts, somebody asks to help desk to recover the account, you have access to all your company resources. And there you go, the attacker can simply get in. Do they attack backup repositories? Now, backup repository for us is a place where you store your backups. And as I said earlier, we see this, nobody will actually encrypt your data and ask for money and leaving you the option to recover. We see this, like 39% of the attacks are basically affecting repository as well. They try to encrypt, delete that data too, not giving you option to recover. How long the recovery take? Now, this is an interesting one because in most cases, we are measuring this recovery time in, what do you think? Minutes, hours? It's actually weeks. So only 4% of the companies can recover it in less than a week. 4% of the ones that got attacked. Typically, like 30%, they are recovering in 1 or 2 weeks. Everything, right? Because we know that the attacks are aiming to get the whole thing. So another one that is really important, there are a lot of companies that they have what is called do not pay policy. And do not pay means if I get ransom, I'm not negotiating with terrorists. And it turns out that 80% of the victims paid the ransom, but they didn't get the encryption key. They couldn't recover it, even if they negotiated with terrorists. And what do? You call the police. That's basically another a really alarming fact. So we know this, that some of them, like 59% of the ones that pay ransom, they could recover, but there is also like 21% that they recover it like partially or not everything or nothing at all. And 16% were able to recover without paying the ransom. Only 16% they have a good backup and a good strategy to overcome this. Now, did I scare you enough? I think I did, right? Who is not scared? I will try to do something. Okay, so let's go to clean restores. What are the lessons learned that we, as a data protection company, learned? And we learned from our customers demanding for better protection, from support cases that we have to help companies to recover when they are protected in using our products. First of all is backup everything. It can be your test dev with the newest deployments, right? You have to back it up as well. You have to protect those backups. You do these backups, but put it in a safe place. Do something better than just use like object storage. There are some options, and I can show you. I was trying to configure it. I hope I can show you what you can do. For example, with the cloud offerings, you have object storage with immutability. And just for the sake of argument, immutability is a way to store data without being able to modify or delete that data. So you have this option to put it in a place where there is really slight chances to delete it, for an attacker to actually remove it, right? So that helps us a little bit. Now, I can argue with any technical guy, and I can say that, for example, we have options for on-premise. If you store it using a Linux repository, we call it a hardened repository. With the immutability option, you are safe, except one thing, which, do you know what that thing might be on a Linux system? Permissions, root, right? Root can do everything. Actually, root cannot remove the immutability, but he can destroy the partition, right? Or the operating system. So we have to keep root out. We don't need those root credentials or the elevation, right? So we just need a simple user. We install a service and then work with that. And we can actually harden, making secure that box to allow root, for example, only on the management interface and no SSH or vulnerabilities like that. So we can make it a little bit harder for an attacker to remove our data. But with cloud, and this is a funny thing. So typically, is anybody in the room using object storage in the cloud? Like, I don't know, S3 or blob storage. Okay, you, just two people, 3 people, just 3 people. Should I talk more about on-prem or? Okay, so question to guys that are using object storage in the cloud. Do you also use immutability? Yes, and versioning, perfect. Now, can you delete the data from object storage with immutability, considering that the data is there protected, I don't know, for 30 days, and you are in the first day after you write the data? Can you? No, you cannot, right? Actually, it turned out somebody can delete your data. It's your cloud provider. And maybe you think, okay, my cloud provider doesn't have access to my data. How can he delete the data? And simple answer, you don't pay for the service. And they remove that data for you. Because they don't want you the cost that you incur to them, right? So keep in mind, there are always ways to delete the data. So we have to, maybe a good strategy is to use, for example, multiple things to protect against and to make it really hard for somebody that comes in. And we also want to design for secure recovery and with alternate location. Many times we see this, that customers, after getting attacked, They want to recover, and they don't want to recover to the same place because mainly are security concerns. They will say, okay, maybe the attacker is still here somewhere. He still have access. We change the passwords, we change this and that, we change the way users accessing the resources, but they might still have something in our systems. And yeah, maybe we should do something else, do it, restore everything to another location. And I know that Kubernetes, for example, and this is a really good example with Kubernetes, you have multiple deployment options. You can deploy it on-prem, and yeah, you can theoretically move it. Your pod can actually go to AWS. But is it really working? Do you still need to transform the data in any way? Is it that easy? It turns out it's not even for Kubernetes. Some distribution, so you cannot simply take your pods and move it easily to cloud. We design for that. We offer this application mobility. You can easily restore to a different place, but keep your pods up. And this is, maybe in Kubernetes easier, but think of virtual machines. With virtual machines, it's totally different because, why? Some of you may know VMware or Hyper-V or Red Hat virtualization. Now, the thing is, every virtualization platform has its own format. So how can you do this conversion if you have to recover to, for example, to cloud, to Azure? You have to somehow transform the virtual machines from VMware to Microsoft Cloud format. And this is not easy. It turned out it can be easy. That's why we are working with vendors like Microsoft and AWS, so we can take care of this format change. And it's really, from the engineering point of view, it's really complex thing, but we made it so easy that you just right-click and say, or maybe you just issue a command and say, okay, recover, and this is my destination. And we figure out, okay, we know that this is your location, DR location is the cloud, maybe AWS or Azure, so we need to perform this conversion, and we'll do it in the backend. And what is really important, in my opinion, because I also think this is there are not so many customers in Romania that, I also think that the cloud adoption should be higher. And I heard Microsoft in the morning saying that, yes, indeed, adoption is low, especially in public sector. And yes, I agree that there are services and resources, and also from cost perspective, it can be more effective or better to run in the cloud. But the adoption is still quite low. But if you run in the cloud, and you want to recover on-prem, you know that cloud providers can lure you in. Uploading the data, it's free. Download, it takes something from you, money, and things like that. If you, for example, run in the cloud and you want to recover on-prem, that's not an easy task. Typically, there are conversions that help you, moving a virtual machine from on-premise to the cloud, yeah, no problem. They will help you. But taking those machines from the cloud coming on-prem is not that simple anymore. We actually can do it. And what is also one of the highlights in our products, and I have to say it now because we want to design for secure recovery and fast recovery, I would say. With fast recovery, we have a technology, and it's in the products in first version. It's called instant recovery. So what we can do with the virtual machine, if you have a backup, we can start it from the backup. I don't know, did you guys heard about this technology? No, so I will explain. So you start from backup. What that means, we just create a mount point from that backup, which is a format, it's a file. We present it to the hypervisor where you want to start it. If it's VMware, we create an NFS data store, and we register this as a virtual machine, and it actually starts from backup. Now, when it starts, it typically takes 2 minutes to reach the operating system, to be fully operational. Now, it started there. Yeah, but it's from backup. Exactly. You immediately come up online, bringing the service up, and then we migrate using typical platform technologies like storage vMotion in VMware, live migration. So we move it from the backup storage to production storage. But virtual machine, while this is performed, this technology allows us to run the service, right? So it's not down. You are not having downtime. You are delivering the service. And some of you may argue, yes, that it could be slow from backup. That's why we are a software company. We allow this technology with any kind of storage you want. You can do this with blob storage from Azure and to use instant recovery from cloud to on-prem on a physical VMware servers on-prem. Yeah. Then, yeah, it's slow. It is slow, but of course, if we engineer this and provide the storage and a connection that is fast enough, it's not a software limitation, it's a resource limitation, right? That is tied to hardware. So we can deliver this technology with any kind of infrastructure, and I'm really happy to see our customers using, for example, instant recovery with online backups, but also with the cloud backups. They have backups in the cloud, and that's typically one of the key adoption for the cloud. That you start with backups, with data that you don't want to manage. You put it there and hope that you don't have to use it, right? And it turns out when you need it, we can still do this fast way of recovering data. And that's, in case of ransomware, I think it's one of the key technologies that you want to use. So we, at Veeam, we built a platform. So at the very beginning, we had only one commercial product. Today, we are talking here about an entire platform. And we want to provide secure backup and fast recovery. We have products that are doing that. I just want to mention here that we have, for a few years, we have a company called Kasten. It's a Veeam acquisition. We provide backups for Kubernetes. And of course, we can use it to protect Kubernetes, pods, applications. And you can actually use it also with technologies like fast recovery to a different place and stuff like this. We also like to know what's happening. So that's why we have monitoring and analytics to understand what's going on, and not only like how much space you need for backups and stuff like this, but we also try to understand, for example, I'll give you this example. If we notice this ransomware behavior when encryption starts, we see machines that are consuming resources to perform encryption. So if we notice something similar, we can trigger an alert because we know that you might want to do a restore. So we can automate that. We can provide also orchestration, and I know that this sounds, when we orchestrate, we can eliminate the manual work, right? So things that you need to do manually can be done automatically in case you need it. Now, for that, you need to build plans. And a plan means, okay, if something like ransomware happens and I want to recover everything in the cloud, I will have to do maybe changing IP address, connecting to different networks, so we can actually put everything in like a plan. And the best part with that plan is that we can test it, right? Also in automatic fashion, and just give you a report and saying, I performed these tests, because honestly, the testing, I'm an engineer, I heard that somebody, the person from Microsoft said that they don't want to do presentation. Me neither. I also don't like to do testing, which means typically testing as engineers, especially for DR, means weekends. You do this in weekends, not affecting production and stuff like this. We can actually do it automatically according to the plan and notify you what went wrong or what not, right? Everything worked, that's okay. But you can also figure out that during your last test, your application couldn't start because the network was not accessible, right? So as long as you have this done periodically, you have guarantee you can perform recovery successful when you press the button, right? So really powerful stuff. Now, just 1 minute, I will talk about this data protection strategy. It's 3-2-1-1-0, and 3 comes from the good practice to have 3 copies of data. That means if you have your database, do a backup is not enough. Do one more. 3 copies, right? 2 types of media. So involves 2 types of media because one type of media, like spinning disk, is affected by one risk or several risks. And they can affect production, but also backups where you store them. So good practice to involve 2 types of media. And we only have 3, or if you count, you can also say 4. So I will just say them. Is spinning disk, tape, flash, and some consider cloud as a 4th. So you have options here as well. 1 copy in another site just to be able to recover the entire thing in a different place. And we also added 1 for immutability, offline, air gap. That's all options to make really hard for an attacker to delete your backups. Imagine just simple example from the past. You have tape in a safe. Now, not connected, we call this air gap, not connected to any network. So in order to delete that data, somebody has to take the tape, put it in a device, and run delete command, which is not possible, right? So it's good practice as well. And 0 errors, we don't want to encounter errors when you are doing recovery. And this can be solved only by one thing, test. If you didn't test, you guess you can recover. So we have a lot of immutability option, especially because tapes and air gap are quite hard to work with. So with immutability, we can use S3 compatible storage on-prem, hardened repository with Linux systems, but you can also use cloud storage in capacity and archive tier. Offerings from Amazon, Azure, and others. We have also partners. GCP is still not there, but it will come soon. Not with immutability at the current option. Data mobility I will skip. I will just want to ask you to design for recovery, because as you said, somebody said recovery is why you are doing backups, right? And we know that 95% of organizations only design for backups, not for restores. And you will have some, I would highly recommend the labs. And I'm prepared to show you. If you go to this address, 1 second, I have to end my presentation and switch to the browser. So this address is from the last slide. We have hands-on labs for you to actually test something that we think are really good examples of ransomware protection. So we have few things here. One that I really recommend is how to protect and enhance Kubernetes application with custom K10. You can request the lab. All you need to do is like open a browser to this address and request the lab, and you will have it for 24 hours. You can play with it. And we also have a ransomware defense with immutable Veeam backups that I really recommend. There are also other things you can do. Actually, I have one of the labs I prepared, but honestly, on this screen you cannot see anything, so it's better just to address question at this point.
Yeah, no pressure. So first of all, thank you. Quite an engaging presentation. You made us forget about lunch, so kudos for that. So questions? two questions there.
It's not very clear for me if Veeam is providing only the software or also the storage options for the backup.
We are a software company. We partner with hardware vendors, so we can use their hardware for storing backups. But I think we can store the data in various ways. We can also use cloud and providers to store that data, so we don't have to. We don't have a hardware with our products, so you
Okay.
have to multiple options to use.
Yeah. Thank you.
My question is kind of similar, but it's really, you presented a lot on the technical spectrum of backupping your data. My question is on the other end, the business, like, do you provide services of, helping the companies with the data policies, archival, retrieval, redundancy, backup DR plans, archival policies, also on that, like consultancy?
We do protect data in terms of creating copies of it, right? So we do backups, we can do replication, in some cases we can do continuous replication. We can do data management in that sense, but we don't archive data. I mean, we can archive backups, but it's not, for me, as an engineer, archiving of data, like move it from one system to another system, because it's maybe too expensive to run on this system. We don't do that kind of archiving. We do archiving of backups and keeping backups for a long time. We comply with regulations. We can offer all these flexible ways of you do protect your data, but in terms of creating copies of it, right? With a lot of options. Put it in two places, maybe 5, maybe in the cloud, everything. Or if you are in the cloud, come and take these backups and store it on-prem as you want. So we are really flexible in this sense. And we do provide companies also with some extra value, which I think it's worth mentioning for. It's quite often when we do these backups only to protect ourselves, but it turns out that with that data in the backups, we can also provide some value. Like, for example, we can spin off what is called the sandbox, right? So we can use that data in the backups without altering, without modifying, changing, just to access it and extract some value. Like, for example, you can run things like machine learning or, on your backups, which are sitting there doing nothing. So you can actually get extra value and also commercial benefits, let's say return on investment faster and things like that, improving the operation in the organization and stuff like this.
Thanks.
Thank you for your question.